The thing is, if you are going to be a successful dropshipper, you need to accept the fact that you're going to have dropshipping returns. Okay, your customers will return products. It's just part of life. And based on our research, 10 to 15% of products get returned anyway. So you can't fight it. Don't try to fight it. In today's conversation, I want to explain to you how to create a dropshipping return policy. Okay, so here is the overview I really want you to pay attention to. Now, let's go back to the origins. Dropshipping return policy 101. Let's have a conversation about that, boss. Now, what is a return policy? So before we dive into creating a return policy for your dropshipping store, let's take a look at what a return policy exactly means. And the thing is, you might be thinking, well, I think I know what it is. No, you don't know, because there are things I'm going to share with you in today's conversation that you haven't even thought about, even if you are an experienced dropshipper. See, a dropshipping return policy is an agreement. Very important. Keep that word in your head. Is an agreement between you as the online store owner and your customer. It is one of a dropshipping store's standard pages and contains a set of rules that determine the when and how of returns on your store. The when and the how. So basically, you want to have a return policy that covers the procedures in case a customer receives a defective or damaged products. It can be singular or plural, wants to return his or her products for whatever reasons. A customer wants to cancel his or her order. A customer wants to amend his or her order. See, the thing what I'm trying to say here is that customers are humans, and so are you. People change their minds all the time. Stuff happens. Mistakes happen. Accept that. You have to accept the fact that a dropshipping return is part of life. We see a lot of dropshippers who are really pissed that, like they're losing money because customers are actually returning their products, and they're trying to fight those customers on social media. That's just kind of crazy. That's really crazy. It's a losing battle. Don't ever do this. If you're listening to me right now, if you're a dropshipper, don't ever argue or fight with your customer over a product. If the product is high quality, it's a highly priced product, just ask for proof or whatever that they're claiming and try to find a way. Always want to find a way, because you are the dropshipper. You are the business person. Your customer is not. Also, don't worry, refund policy and return policy basically mean the same thing and cover the same topics. Some stores prefer to call it a refund policy, while others call it a return policy. By the way, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. We love having this sort of convo from time to time. And so let me give you a few pro tips here. So why do you need a return policy while dropshipping? You might ask, right? Well, the thing is that, going back to what I said earlier, we are all humans. Stuff happens. Let's say you sell a product on your dropshipping store, and it doesn't matter if your dropshipping store is on Shopify, Amazon, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, you name it. A customer buys the products, but then decides he or she doesn't want it anymore. What are you going to do? It happens. It has happened to you also. You are listening to me right now. You have had this scenario happen to you in the past, hasn't it? Okay, so what should you do now? So without a return policy, many questions could arise, right? You will likely think about whether or not the customer can return the product after more than 14 days of receiving it, whether or not he or she needs to contact you first before sending it back, who is going to pay for the shipping cost of returning the item, what happens if your customer decides he or she wants a different size of the same product. So you have a constellation of things that could happen. Okay. So here, what I just gave you is just a few things. I mean, it's not an exhaustive list of things that could happen. What I'm trying to really tell you here is that you can imagine that getting return requests without a straightforward procedure for, let's say, processing them can be a painful process, both mentally and financially. Okay, so a return policy will give you and your customers a clear process and set of rules to follow when it comes to anything regarding refunds and returns. In addition to that, a detailed return policy will avoid any discussions with you and your customers, because everything regarding returns will be clearly explained in the policy in the first place. Okay, so don't make the mistake of ignoring your return policy because you think that you don't need it. You need it. You need it. Okay, and I'm telling you right now, like according to our research, 10 to 15% of products are returned. And as a matter of fact, there's even research online that says that at least 30%, check this out, 30% of products ordered online are returned. So this is kind of important. For brick and mortar stores, this percentage is just 9%. So think about that. Now, let me quickly remind you of today's conversation. What is the topic? What are we talking about here today? I'm explaining to you how to create a dropshipping return policy. Okay. So what are the things you need to cover in a return policy? This is an important thing to think about. See, the thing is, when we talk about dropshipping in general, you have, it's like an open market, right? Entry barriers are kind of low. It's a very popular online business model. But when it comes to handling returns and refunds, it has a big downside. Why? Let me just explain to you. Because everything goes back to the foundational aspects of dropshipping itself. Because if you think about it, when dropshipping, you don't manage your own physical inventory, right? You don't actually, you just take care of customer service. You just take care of the marketing, the sales, and you take care of the customer service and the returns also. So you don't manufacture, you don't store, you don't ship. Furthermore, dropshipping products often ship from China, except when you are using local suppliers, while most customers are based in countries like the United States and UK. Okay, so because of this geographical gap, because of this conceptual gap from the get-go, it can be hard to compete on return policies with big e-commerce companies like Amazon. Okay, but you need to have a return policy on your store. Now, online stores that offer hassle-free, customer-centric return policies will often see a strong returning customer rate. In contrast, stores with a strict, hard-to-follow return policy will often have hard to rely customer base. Okay, so this is kind of important for you to really think about this. Okay, it's important to actually think about the how do I call it? Like, you need to think about the whole process in and out. You need to actually put yourself in a customer's shoes and imagine how you would feel. Okay, how you will feel. But remember, when we talk about return policy, we're not trying to complicate. We're not trying to razzle dazzle customers here. We're not trying to take advantage of them. We respect our customers. Okay, we respect their time, and we're trying to use very simple language. We're not trying to razzle dazzle them. We're not trying to have like a very complicated lingo, like legal lingo. You don't want to do that. Legal lingo. You don't want to do that. Okay, you don't want your customers to actually have a legal dictionary when trying to read your return policy. Okay, make it easy, make it hassle free. Very important. Okay, and one thing I want to say here is that keep in mind that there is no single return policy that can be used for all online stores. Your return policy will actually depend on the products you sell, your supplier, your preferences, and your brain's tone. Very, very important. So here are the steps I want you to follow. Okay, here are the steps you need to actually implement right now if you want to create a dropshipping return policy. So the very first thing you need to do is clarity. You want to provide clarity. You want to provide granularity. Okay, you want to specify which items can be returned or exchanged. Maybe it's all the products. Maybe it's some products. You want to be very clear there. You want to delineate the category of products that can be returned or exchanged. If things are clear from the get-go, you're not going to have problems. Okay, you got to specify if all the items on your store can be returned or exchanged, or if there are some exceptions. Most stores that we have researched will offer their return policy for their whole catalog, but in some cases, when selling certain digital items, for example, returns or exchanges are not possible. Okay, it's also possible that you don't want to offer exchange or return possibilities for clearance items in the final sale. Okay, so those are really things you have to think about. So this is number one. So the second thing I want you to do here, you need to think about when things can be returned or exchanged. Here we're talking about timing. So in the first step, we're talking about the nature of the return. Now we're talking about the timing of the return. Okay, so you'll have to decide for how long your customers can return the items after delivery. So typical durations include the possibility to return items 14, 30, 60 or 90 days after delivery. So now just remember though, by choosing a 90-day period, you give your customers a very long time to think about whether or not they want to keep the item. However, you will have to keep in mind that you may get refund requests for purchases made up to 90 days ago and essentially lose those sales. So those are things you really to think about when we have a conversation about timing. You always need to strike the right balance, okay? Because if you were to go with a shorter period, and now if you like a shorter period is 14 days. Now 14 days is less customer friendly, but you will not have to worry about refund requests from older purchases, okay? Now, one thing I want to say here is that, and this is really important, please keep in mind that certain regions in the world may require you to give customers a minimum amount of days to return their order. For example, if you are selling in Europe, customers have the right to cancel and return their orders within 14 days without justification. Without justifications, okay? This is really important to keep in mind. So because, don't actually be pissed that customers is just returning your products without actually even justifying why they changed their mind in the first place. No, they don't have to, because where they live, their jurisdiction allows them to do so. So familiarize yourself with the different types of laws in the places where you do business. I want to contextualize the conversation we're having here by reminding you of today's topic. Here is today's topic. So I'm explaining to you how to create a dropshipping return policy. Okay. How do you actually crystallize the whole thing? How do you go into granularity without pissing the customer off or dazzling them without making things very complicated? So the thing you need to do here to actually make things clear from the get-go is to basically specify the required conditions of the item to return it. So this is really, really, really important. Okay. It makes sense that a customer cannot return an item if he or she has already damaged it or fully worn it out. Okay. But the big question, let's just talk about it. What really defines the borderline between a non-refundable item and a refundable item? Talk to me about that. Or do you have a clear idea about that yourself, or you have no idea? If you have no idea, then we need to really drill down here. Okay, this is something that you will have to define in your return policy to avoid misconceptions. And everybody knows that when we have misconceptions, who's going to lose? You as a dropshipper. You're going to lose because the customer sooner or later will lose on this sale or will actually quit your store forever. You don't want either scenario anyway. Okay, so here are some questions that you can think about when it comes to the condition of the item. Okay, so will you accept return items that are slightly worn? Can the package be opened, or does it still have to be fully sealed? What if there were parts or stickers missing? Will you accept the products? Are you comfortable with that? Does the item need to be returned with the original packaging, or you're comfortable if there is another packaging? So can the item be used before the return? So those are things that you have to think about. Now, these 5 questions do not constitute an exhaustive list of questions to ask, but they do give you some sort of analytical foundation. They give you a conceptual foundation that you'll need to have to actually handle the proper conditions within which you want the item to be when they are returned to you. Okay, so it's really important to make sure that you clarify those aspects and make sure that it is clearly in the return policy and that the customer has read it and is comfortable with them too. The next thing I want you to do here is to be clear about how the customer will be paid back. Okay, this is really important because just saying I'll just accept the refund, whatever. The customer wants to be paid. It's their money. That makes sense. Okay, so this is another one of those things that various online stores do differently. So some stores will pay customers back using the payment method and the currency they have used to pay. Other stores may only give customers a store credit in return, meaning the customer gets a coupon that lets them purchase other products for a discount or for free. And in rare cases, you may also see stores giving customers items of equal value in return. So it's one of those things you have to see what really works for you. Okay, so as you can see from the different scenarios I've been telling you, it really depends on how you want to treat your customers, and it depends on your target audience too. Like if you have a specific target audience, you're not, because you know your target audience. Okay, you're not going to actually propose something that is totally unacceptable for them. Okay, so to be extra clear in your return policy, we recommend specifying the time it will take you to send the funds back to your customers. Very important. You also need to write down who will pay for the shipping cost. Okay. In general, you have two choices here. You can either offer your customers to pay for their return shipping cost, or you can let them pay for it themselves. Okay. Since most dropshippers use suppliers in China, you will often see return policies where the customer has to pay for the return shipping cost. However, you may also come across some dropshipping stores that do offer to pay for the return shipping fees. Okay, but now it's all about how well you basically know your customers. When we advise our business clients, our dropshipping business clients, we tell them to actually pay for the shipping, to pay for the return shipping, and add the price onto the shipping cost onto the price originally. Okay, keep in mind the shipping from your customer's country to China is probably way more expensive than the other way around. Okay, this is so important. And so the next thing I want you to really think about is to specify how your customers can initiate a return. This is also important because you want to actually lay out the procedures that you will follow to make sure that customers are getting back to you. They can actually reach you. Okay. And so you want to tell your customers how they can initiate a return. If you don't do this, customers will have no idea how to return a product and will send you tons of frustrated emails on this topic. Okay. Some dropshipping stores say that customers should email them if they want to initiate a return, but it's best if you have an address available where customers can directly send their orders to return it. It's just a lot easier, okay? Just have an address available. This is really cool so that you can actually centralize everything, because the whole thing here is that when customers want to return an item, they're already pissed. They're not in a good mood, okay? So you don't want to add insult to injury by making things more complicated. You don't want to do that. So just make sure that you have things that are, you actually present things as simply as possible so that they can actually just ship things right away, and even better, just handle the whole shipping cost as I just said, and make sure that you even have a way where they can actually just get confirmation for their shipping online. This is really easy. Okay. So the bottom line here is that how do you deal with returns on your dropshipping stores? Let's just have a conversation about that. The thing is, if you are running a dropshipping store, you may be unsure about dealing with returns, okay? Now, in general, e-commerce stores use a return merchandise authorization system, an RMA, to manage returns. Among others, an RMA system lets your customers initiate their return and gives them a label with an RMA number. So this allows them to ship the returning package without taking up your time. So this is really good, okay? So when running a dropshipping store, a similar system can be implemented. So here is what the process will look like when a customer wants to return a product. Okay. So the first contact, the customer contacts you to request a return. So the RMA number request. So you request an RMA number from your supplier. And so you have the return. So the customer will send back the product to your supplier and write the RMA number on the address. Okay. And the supplier will issue a refund. So the supplier will refund you for the wholesale price of the products. And then you have the customer refund. So you, the dropshipping supplier, will have to refund the customer for the full sale price of the products. So those are things I really want you to think about. The next time you're thinking about actually a dropshipping return. Okay. Now, I want to share with you our return policy templates. Okay, as we said in the title of this video, I want to share with you on the return policy templates. What we're going to do here, we are going to show you three slides, and I'm going to take some time to actually slow down so you can see the slides here. So basically, here is slide number 1. So you can see here, you put the return policy, the return eligibility, you put everything there. Okay, you put the number of days after purchase. So if more than number of days have passed since your purchase, here, as we cannot offer you a refund or exchange. Okay, so you want to mention the items that are non-refundable, they are not returnable, by the way. Okay, so it's really important. So I'm just gonna leave you with this return policy on the screen for 10 seconds. Okay, let's move on to the second one. So the second here, the second part of the letter or the policy, rather, not the letter, the policy, the policy, you have the return process. So here is where you actually describe what will happen when a return is actually received. Okay, you tell them, you know, you will notify them. Okay, you tell them what you will do with the package and the content. You will inspect it. Okay, and so if the return is approved, you will send the fund within how much time. I mean, how, you know, and you also mentioned exchanges. So you also mentioned exchanges. So this is really important. So this is actually how you actually do it. So we are going to leave this on the screen right now for 10-15 seconds before moving on to the third part. Okay, now let's talk about the third part here. The third part will actually address the shipping itself. So here you can see here it says to return a product, you should send us an email at blah 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 and send your products to address. Okay, so shipping fees. This is here you have to crystallize who will pay for the shipping fees. Are you going to pay for them, or your customer is going to pay for them? So those are things you really want to pay attention to. Okay, and you also want to talk about, for example, if the customer is shipping some items that are worth over a certain price point, what are the procedures? So those are really important too. Again, we want to clarify things from the get-go so that you are not surprised in the end. Okay, so again here we're going to leave this on the screen for 10-15 seconds so you can read it and actually sink it in. All right. Before I close this section, let me just repeat one thing. Okay, the template we just shared with you here is not legal advice. Okay, use it at your own risk. So, you know, our team, you know, the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show is now responsible for any events that may occur due to this template being used by a merchant. Okay, and so we're just providing this for educational purposes to kind of help you see what you can you can put in the dropshipping return policy. Okay, but it's more educational. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just explaining to you how you can create a dropshipping return policy. So I explained to you what a dropshipping return policy really is. Why do you need a return policy while dropshipping in the first place, and what you need to cover in a return policy. So you need to specify items that can be returned or exchanged. You need to think about when things actually, you need to think about when things can be returned or exchanged. You need to specify the required conditions of the item to return it. You need to be clear about how the customer will be paid back. You need to write down who will pay for the shipping cost. You need to specify how your customers can initiate a return. You need to know how to deal with returns on your dropshipping store. So this is really important. And we just share with you a return policy template. Thank you. God bless you. I'll see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.